All right, so version 6.7 beta just moved into V3, and we got a fresh round of changes. Sandrone, Yaemiko, Sino, Riesli, and the stellar superconduct reaction itself all received adjustments. In this video, we're going through every single change, breaking down what it means in practice, and giving a real conclusion on where Sandrone and the whole stellar conduct archetype stands heading into release. Let's get into it. Quick note, 6.7 beta is still active and more changes can come in V4. Subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss any updates. I cover everything immediately. Now, let's get into the V3 changes. First, quick context on the timeline. We are currently in version 6.6, which launched May 20th. Version 6.7 is expected to launch July 1st, making it about 4 weeks away. Now, beta is progressing through its normal phases. V1 was the initial kit drop. V2 brought the major adjustments, and V3, which we just got, is the fine-tuning phase. Let's start with Sandrone since she's the main character of 6.7. Her charged attack condensed beam damage went from 204% up to 242.25%. This is a meaningful increase on one of her most frequently used damage instances. The condensed beam is what Fago fires in calculation mode, and it's the primary source of sustained damage throughout her rotation. Going from 204 to 242 is roughly an 18% increase on that specific hit. Noticeable and appreciated. Her charged attack in stellar conduct form went from 159.38% up to 161.5%. This one is tiny, barely over 2%, and is essentially just a polish pass on the stellar superconduct version of that hit. Minor, but technically positive. The passive 1 stack change from 5 to 10 is listed here, but it's worth clarifying this was actually the big change from V2, not V3. V3 is just carrying that forward. The stack doubling was already a major improvement to her damage scaling, and it's what turned Sandrone from mediocre to genuinely viable in stellar conduct teams. V3 confirms it stays. Her C2 got reworked. The old numbers were 100% and 40% per stack. High raw percentages, but structured in a way that could feel either too strong or too weak depending on your team's attack values. The new version shifts toward a more balanced, consistent contribution that scales more predictably. It's not a buff, but it's not a meaningful damage loss. When you look at overall rotational damage, it's a design cleanup. Overall verdict on Sandrone's V3 changes? Small positive adjustments on top of a V2 that already did the heavy work. She's coming out of beta in a noticeably stronger position than her initial V1 kit. Not broken, not overwhelming, but genuinely solid. On-field cryo-charged attack DPS with a unique calculation power management loop and strong stellar conduct scaling mid to high investment teams. Feel her impact clearly. Yaemiko received the most substantial V3 changes among the support characters, and they're all positive. Her passive 1, the additional electro damage she deals through stellar conduct triggers, went from 40% up to 50%. Every time stellar superconduct procs in her team, she's now contributing more personal damage from that passive. Her passive 4, the Secho Sakura stellar conduct damage from her turrets, went from 125% up to 150%. This is a 20% increase on what her turrets contribute through the stellar reactions specifically. Since her turrets are constantly on field dealing off-field damage, this passive fires consistently throughout any fight, and the upgrade meaningfully improves her sustained stellar conduct contribution. C1, her electro and stellar conduct damage bonus went from 40% up to 50%. Direct damage increase for anyone running her first constellation. C6, the stellar conduct crit damage bonus went from 150% up to 200%. This is a significant jump for invested Yaemiko players. 200% crit damage from a single constellation effect tied to the new reaction is genuinely strong for endgame content. Yaemiko gets the biggest relative improvement of the 3 support characters in V3. For players who have her built and are planning Sandrone teams, these changes make her a noticeably more attractive choice as an electro partner. Riesli's C6, the additional icicle damage from stellar conduct, went from 40% up to 60%. This is specifically a Constellation 6 change, so it's only relevant for heavily invested Riesli players. For those who have it, a 50% relative increase on that damage instance is meaningful. For C0 Riesli, this particular change doesn't apply, but his general stellar conduct compatibility improvements from earlier betas still stand. Sino's C2 stellar conduct damage bonus went from 10% up to 16%. Simple and clean, a 60% relative improvement on that specific bonus. Sino's C2 interaction with the new reaction was already a positive reason to revisit him in a stellar conduct team context, and 16% is more meaningful than 10% in practice, even if neither number is enormous on its own. For Sino players who have been wondering whether he fits into this new archetype, the answer is increasingly yes, as his reaction compatibility numbers keep getting nudged upward through beta. Now, the change that affects the entire stellar conduct archetype, regardless of which characters you're running. The stellar superconduct reaction itself got buffed in V3. The stack limit increased from 10 stacks up to 12 stacks, and with those 2 extra stacks, the damage multiplier curve was extended. The maximum multiplier went from roughly 1.85 to 1.89 range up to a clean 2.0 at maximum stacks. Here's why this matters. The stellar conduct damage multiplier scales with how many stacks you've built. Previously, you could build up to 10 stacks and max out somewhere around 1.85 to 1.89 times the base damage reaction. Now, you can build to 12 stacks and reach a 2.0 multiplier. That's a meaningful ceiling increase, and the 2 extra stacks give high-investment teams more room to push the reaction's damage output. This is a team-wide improvement. Every character that interacts with stellar conduct, Sandrone, Miko, Sino, Riosley, and any future characters built around this reaction system benefits from the higher stack cap and higher maximum multiplier. It's arguably the most impactful single change in V3 because it lifts the entire archetype rather than one specific character. To put it plainly, if you're building a stellar conduct team, your damage ceiling just got higher across the board. Let's assess V3 as a whole. For Sandrone specifically, these are net positive changes, but they're not dramatic. She had her big moment in V2, where the real transformation happened. V3 is polish. The charged attack multiplier going from 204 to 242 is the most meaningful individual change here, and combined with the V2 improvements that are still in effect, she is in a genuinely good place. She is a focused on-field DPS that rewards learning her calculation power and overclock management loop. Not a character you can press buttons mindlessly and get great results, but one that pays off when you engage with her mechanics properly. The C2 rework is the only change that generates some legitimate discussion. It's not a buff, and it's not a straight damage increase. It's a rebalancing that changes the scaling structure. For players who were specifically planning to stop at C2, it's worth revisiting whether C2 still represents a meaningful investment point after this change. Early analysis suggests the overall rotational damage difference is smaller than the raw number change implies, but it's something to watch as more V3 testing comes in. For the supporting cast, Miko, Sino, Riosley, the changes are uniformly positive. Hoyover is clearly trying to make the stellar conduct ecosystem feel rewarding and complete, rather than being a system that only Sandrone herself benefits from. Buffing the characters who pair with her reaction expands the teams people can build and gives players more flexibility in how they approach the new archetype. The stellar conduct reaction buff from 10 stacks to 12 stacks with a 2.0 maximum multiplier is the headline positive of V3. A higher ceiling for the reaction itself benefits every team composition that engages with it. That's the complete V3 breakdown. Sandrone's charged attack buffed, C2 rebalanced, Miko sees the most meaningful support improvements, Sino and Riosley get constellation upgrades, and the stellar conduct reaction itself gets a stack limit increase with a 2.0 multiplier ceiling. All trending in the right direction. Subscribe so you don't miss V4 changes. Leave a like if this was useful. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Bye!